Okay, we're here today with Ambassador Kristian Prikk from Estonia. Ambassador, thank you for coming by to spend some time with us today. We want to talk about a few issues, specifically Estonian defense issues, Estonian geopolitical issues, and of course, we can't start without talking about the war in Ukraine. So, first of all, welcome.
Thank you, JJ. It's a pleasure and honor to be here, and certainly very interested to share our views regarding the defense and security issues, not only in our region but also in a wider transatlantic space.
Estonia has been a leader in the region, in fact, around the world, for a number of years when it comes to issues relating to Russia, because Estonia has had its own issues with Russia. So could you just tell us right off the bat, at the very beginning here, what Estonia's view is of Russia's war against Ukraine?
Yeah, it's certainly something that should not and cannot be considered an isolated event, and certainly not something that should be considered as a simply a war that has its own very limited aims. As we see it, this war is part of a wider picture, and just as important as Ukraine is for the current Russian leadership. This war is very much about wider objectives. This war is against the I would say certainly the European security architecture and how exactly different countries can reach their aims. But it certainly also has more global impact, and whatever happens in Ukraine will influence the security, global security, certainly for decades to come, if not for longer time.
Estonia, back in the 2000s, was attacked by Russia digitally, or essentially electronically, and you sounded the alarm to the rest of the world about some of the capabilities that Russia had at the time, and since that time have become a digital leader around the world when it comes to cybersecurity, and a lot of countries have learned from you. And I'm wondering, have you seen Russia deploy any of that activity during the course of this war with Ukraine? Because everybody was thinking at the beginning there was going to be this big cyber attack, just like what happened with Georgia, and then other things, but we haven't seen much of that. What has Estonia seen?
What we're seeing is that under the surface of this ugly and tragic conventional warfare, there's certainly a layer of also digital warfare. We've seen it not only from day one, but the, let's say, preparation battlefield actually started way earlier. Certainly there were instances of certain bugs being implanted in different critical systems in Ukraine, as well as attempts to exploit the vulnerabilities of the systems or the bugs that were implanted in the system. However, as we see, what we see is that that firstly, Ukrainians have been resilient, smart. They've been able to most likely evade some of the attacks, fight back some of the attacks, and in many cases also the Russians most likely have intended to exploit the very systems themselves, and for that reason have not been willing to take the systems down. Particularly, it applies to the communications systems. As we've seen throughout the war, the Russians are quite often actually relying on commercial cell phone systems and so on, because of the lack of proper independent or military comms in their own disposal. So there's a lot of things going on under the surface, but certainly the Russians have not been succeeding as much as they've intended to.
How is Estonia helping Ukraine? What are you doing to assist them with your knowledge and whatever else that you're giving them or helping them with? How are you helping them?
Yeah, what I have to say is that when it comes to the war in Ukraine, this Russian full-scale war against an independent sovereign nation in Europe. Again, just the perception of people in Estonia is that that this is not just war somewhere else in some other country, but they feel very well that this is the attack, the war against, let's say, our world, our way of life, and in many ways also the war against our own security. This is very important. Why this is important? Because when we talk about Estonian support to Ukraine, we have to be very aware that this is not just government support. This is not just let's say official Estonia supporting Ukraine, but this is a whole of nation effort. I personally don't have single member of family or single friend who hasn't in one way or another in supporting Ukraine, either through grassroots efforts or some other way. Now, talking about the most visible kind of support, Estonia was among the very first countries to send lethal military assistance to Ukraine before the war started, because let's say the sign was certainly out there, and we felt that we need to help Ukraine to fight back. As of now, we are talking about approximately 1% of our own GDP. The military assistance that Estonia has given to Ukraine since the beginning of this year. Again, 1% of GDP, which is around close to 1/3 of our own defense budget, and we've sent pretty much, the ammunition, the equipment, the gear across the board, starting from anti-tank missile rocket launchers or anti-tank mines to rifles, to ammunition, to howitzers, to winter gear, to personal protection equipment, to vehicles, so on and so forth. The list is very, very long, and we are constantly trying to find additional ways how to support Ukraine. Certainly, this is not the only way we're supporting. There is a very strong humanitarian aid effort, both from the government as well as from different NGOs and so on and so forth. But what I would particularly emphasize here is the assistance that we are giving to Ukrainians by welcoming the Ukrainian refugees, mostly women, kids, and the elderly, to Estonia. We have received around 4% of our population of Ukrainian refugees. So in the context of the US, that would amount to around 12-13 million people in the duration of this past nine months. this is considerable, and yet we don't have any refugee camps in Estonia. We've been able to find proper shelter to all of them. We are providing the same universal healthcare that our our citizens or people with residence permits get in Estonia. We found the ways how to send the Ukrainian kids to school and so on and so forth. So this is a massive effort, which often doesn't get as much attention as the military gets, but this is important too.
Yes. I know a couple of people who are actually helping refugees in their homes,
Right.
their houses or summer houses or other places that they're not living. And that's pretty remarkable, making sure that they have medical care. I mean, there are some efforts that are transformational that are teaching the rest of the world what to do and how to handle a situation. Because I don't think anybody expected Europe to be in a war like this ever again after World War II, but yet here we are. Two more brief subject areas before time's up. I want to ask you about what's important to Estonia right now, geopolitically, whatever. What's the most important element for you and your country at this point?
Maybe this sounds as a cliche, but I have to say that at this point and at this juncture of time, we can say that subject number 1, 2, and 3 for us is this particular war. We collectively have to get this thing right. We, as I said before, we don't consider this war as a thing in itself. We are certain that the way this war ends will define the future as we will know it, and not just the future of people in Ukraine, but also people in the certainly the people of let's say NATO eastern flank, but even more. And we certainly believe that the results of this war and the lessons from this war will also guide the way the global security will develop in the coming decades. This will give important lessons to countries and leaderships, not only in Europe and in the transatlantic area, but also in Asia, in Middle East, and elsewhere. So we consider it extremely important that we do acknowledge the risks involved with this particular conflict, but we don't that we stick together, and that we also acknowledge the opportunities if we get this thing right. We should not be afraid. We shouldn't get spooked by the Russian tactics of fear, pain, and sometimes crumbles of hope. So fear whenever they come up with something new, like dirty bomb or tactical nuclear weapon or something like that. Pain when they attack the electrical power circuit in Ukraine, or when they close the natural gas tap to Europe, and hope whenever they show their alleged readiness to negotiate, but without giving up their maximalist goals. We should stay the course, and if we do, then the rewards are global.
Very interesting. The last thing, your relationship with the United States. Can you characterize the relationship?
It's deep, it's long, but it's centered around security. This year, we celebrated 100 years of diplomatic relations between the United States and the countries of Estonia and also our southern neighbors, Latvia and Lithuania. Even throughout the Cold War, when our countries were illegally occupied and annexed by the Soviet Union, United States never recognized our status as occupied and annexed. Our people appreciate it very much and remember it very well. And certainly when it comes to our relationship, we have excellent relations through the Estonian community in the US. We have increasing and improving economic ties. We have nice cultural events and everything, but security is in the middle of this relationship. And we like to think that this is not just a one-way relationship. It's not just us benefiting from everything that the US can globally do, but we really believe that we are a good ally. You can count on us when the US needs help, support, maybe sometimes a bit of advice, and we are there when allies need our help. So whether it's something in our neighborhood or farther away, we are ready to tackle the global challenges together.
Ambassador Prikk, thank you. I appreciate this. I appreciate your candor and the approach that you're taking to explaining this, because we Americans have been locked into this war for the same amount of time as everyone else has, but we are looking at it from afar. But you are right there in the thick of it. You're not in Ukraine, but you're right next to them, and you understand probably better than almost anyone what kind of enemy Russia has been to that region. So thank you for laying it all out and being very clear about it.
Thank you, JJ. And let's stick together and let's push through it.